involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good, I guess.
We got what we got, and that's what we're doing, right?
That's right. Testing.
All right, 7 o'clock. Let's call our meeting to order. We pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see where are we here. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
David Walker.
Here.
Soren Peterson.
Here.
Chuck Schultz.
Here.
Mike Cunningham.
Here.
Marna Smith. Here. Al Poole.
Here.
And Marcy Husted here.
Better be here to present the budget. All right, at this time, I'd like to suspend our regular board meeting for a public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to review the proposed 2017-2018 fiscal year township budget. The property tax millage rate proposed to be levied to support the proposed budget will be a subject of this hearing. Okay. In 2016-2017, this current fiscal year, we've had a lot of things happen in the township. Some things have picked up over last year, and we'll talk about those as we go through the presentation. One of the key things that we had is we had 4 elections this year. We had local, primary, and presidential, and this is the first year that I've been here that we've had 4 elections. I've seen 3, but I haven't seen 4. And it was a lot of work to be done, and the clerk's office was extremely busy. Well, with that being said, right during the first election process, our past clerk was Keith Kramer, and he retired. And after that, we appointed Marcy Husted as our township clerk. So Marcy came into this nice little basket of love and had to pick up and do a lot of work. Well, she did a great job, and we got the election off without a hitch, and she definitely got herself vested when it came to the election process because she had 2 more rapidly after that. So we also elected Al Poole to the township board. He replaced Cam Gonzalez, who subsequently was appointed to the planning commission, so they kind of just flipped roles there. Both of them have worked in the planning commission, so it works out well, and Al is also our ex officio board member for the planning commission. We added a level 1 assessor to our staff. We added David MacArthur. He's doing well. He's actually doing his training for his level 3 assessor. We did have a slight revenue increase in revenue sharing. We did some road work projects. We repaved Fawcett Road from Old US 23 to Ledgewood. Great response from that. Neighbors are very appreciative. Looks great. They did a good job. We also did a mile of Denton. Well, there was a mile of Denton Hill that was done. That was done by the road commission. So it was nice to see us get something for nothing for a change. We also added gravel, and we did ditching on Heartland Road from Gordon Road to Germany. And we've continued our tree cutting program. That's a program where we have received right-of-way money ever since we reached the population of over 10,000. And we've been using that money to cut down trees that have a high potential for falling in the road. This subsequently has lowered our public safety costs because usually when a tree blocks the road, someone calls 911, they send the fire department, and we get billed a fire run. So it's been highly successful, and it's helped really reduce our costs as far as emergency calls for removing trees. The zoning department has really picked up. We've had large increases in land use permits, large increases in land splits. I've seen more land splits and property boundary realignments this year alone than I think I have combined in the whole time that I've been here. So we loaned $425,000 from our general fund to our sewer fund to make sure that we made the bond payment. We sold a 74-acre parcel that was purchased at the tax sale in 2015-2016. And we used proceeds, part of the proceeds from that sale, to pay off delinquent sewer payments and REUs that were on that property, as well as pay back the fund for the money that we borrowed to purchase the property. We just completed and closed the sale of the 28 acre parcel that we bought the same year. And the same thing, we used the money to pay off, sewer charges, past sewer charges, and pay back our fund for the money that we borrowed for that. Cider Mill Crossing, our mobile home community off of Old US 23. They cleared a bunch of land last year. They put in approximately 174 new sites. I was out there last month. They had 20 homes in already, ordered 20 while we were there, and we're ordering another 20 the next week, and they said that they will probably be in sometime this year to put in another 130 plus sites. So that really helps improve our O&M fund and our debt retirement on our sewer. So, that's already been approved, and it's part of the original consent agreement that we had, so we look forward to seeing that occur. As part of our sewer initiative, Lake Tyrone hooked into the sewer system. We had approximately 83 parcels in Tyrone Township and right around 100 and just a little over 100 in Heartland Township, so it was an interjurisdictional sewer agreement for Lake Tyrone. So that project went off. Once it got started, it was right on time. They finished, all the reclamation is done, and it's up and going, so we've been going since June. Subsequently, that really bolstered our general fund, and we will definitely see a major decrease in the amount of money that we're loaning to make the bond payment in the future. Val Royale opened up a wedding barn. She went through, a process. It was a lengthy process. She made a few changes, and finally she got through it, got approved, and is open. I think she had a couple events last year. She's sold out for this year already. They were in today, and they're inquiring about expanding the facility. So they have to do some things and go through the site approval process again, but they're looking to expand. Another year of budget surplus. We've had budget surpluses from 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 13-14, 14-15, 15-16, and we'll have a budget surplus again this year. Our estimated budget surplus, it's just an estimate because we still have the rest of this month to go, bills to pay. So we're estimating that it's going to be at least $110,000. So the budget process, what do we do when we build a budget for the township? Well, first thing we need to do is try to determine how much money is coming in. And we use the historical data and any law changes that we hear about coming. We definitely listen to when the governor releases his budget to see if he's going to increase or decrease funding to the townships, whether it's EVIP funding, statutory funding, or constitutional funding. And then we need to determine our needs. That's the key thing. And people always say, well, how do you manage that budget? I go, well, you have to define what your needs and your wants are, throw out your wants, and prioritize your needs. So that's what we do here. Then we estimate our expenses for service, and then we develop an expense budget with the current income, and we're constantly reviewing our year-to-date budget versus our actual expenses. And that gets looked at daily. Challenges. Well, we know that revenue sharing is uncertain for next year. It has shored up, and it does look like it's going to stay very consistent. So it's always something that you want to keep an eye on. Another challenge that we're continually tracking our 20-year sewer bond repayment plan. However, it's looking a lot more promising going forward. I know that when we put our sewer plan together, it was estimated at 2024 we would stop loaning money to the fund.
24 or 26, I don't remember.
That we were going to stop loaning money from our general fund to make that bond payment, and we're real close. We always continue to review all services and expenses. Another challenge that we're going to be facing is that we're going to have to purchase new voting equipment, and we're going to have to train all of our voting staff. We're probably going to have 2 elections next year?
One for sure.
One for sure, okay. So we're going to need to do that. Another challenge that we're facing is an interjurisdictional county drain in Orchard Park. We have a site over there where there's a retention pond, not a detention pond, which means the water doesn't flow out. There's been a lot of upstream development and deterring of water, and it's flooding houses. Actually, one house has been flooded several times. It's had 4 feet of water in its basement. So we're looking at possible solutions for that. So that is a challenge. Even though we will be assessing the residents, there's still a cost to the township, and it also will be subject to a township engineering review. Another big challenge that we're facing is we have a 50-year-old building, and we know some of the problems that we're facing with the inspections that we've had done and the future plans and needs of our building. So we know that we're going to have some cost mounting there, and we need to also look at a future needs assessment to determine where do we go with this building, what do we do with this building, and if we have to abandon and move forward. So we're going to be looking at those things in the next year. Roads are always a challenge, especially when it comes to the funding. It's just really easy for everybody to stick their hand out and ask for us to pay for the roads, but we know that it's the responsibility of the road commission. And the road commission is always stating, that they're always looking for the state funding. So, we're always looking to improve our roads. It's a challenge to get the money. It's a challenge to get any matching funds on any primary road projects that we're working on. So that's what we're looking at as far as challenges. Okay, so this next slide is about our millage rate. And people are always asking, you get all this money for taxes, and what do you do with it? So we actually broke it down, and this is the, so based on a $100,000 taxable value on a home, and our last year interest rate was 0.8961, you can see that it's broken out into Heartland, Linden, and Fenton school districts. So we'll just use Heartland, for example. So $150 goes to a special assessment for police and fire. $90 goes to the township. $151 goes to Cromane Library. $336 goes to the Intermented School District. $401 goes to the county. $855 goes to local schools, and $600 would go to state education. So you can see that the township is down at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to funding of tax dollars. So there's a snapshot of where tax dollars go based on $100,000.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
What is my college is a big hunk of money. That's just before. I really can't get much of an explanation. Where's that money? I mean, since I've lived here, I dumped a lot of money into that.
Yeah, that was actually because Fenton and Linden school districts are in the Genesee County School District. They are in that scope of Mott College. So it was voter approved. However, Tyrone Township residents, majority did not support it.
No.
The people to the north, majority did support it, so you kind of got vacuumed into it.
Just because we're in the Genesee mailing address.
We're in the GISD district.
So what does it do? What does the money do?
It benefits it's either for their buildings or
So, but we don't get no benefit.
it's on the ballot. It's
Yeah.
been voted in on the ballot. It's
The
whatever their
language was on the
bonds.
ballot, I think it was
Yeah.
for operating and building.
What'd
Building.
you say, Chuck?
You would have a different rate of going there if that's your school district.
Well, yeah, Fenton was the school.
You do receive a discounted rate if you attend the school, being a Tyrone Township resident.
I'm not the type of.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
So, the next slide is our annual revenue by source. So you can take a look in this last year where our revenue has come from, and the previous years where it's come from, what we've estimated and what we've budgeted. Biggest part of our revenue comes from revenue sharing, and that could be EVIP, that could be statutory or constitutional revenue sharing. Next biggest chunk comes from taxes, services, other revenue, and franchise fees. The franchise fees are what we receive from AT&T, Charter. Township generated revenue. These are revenues that the township generates for permits and fees. So if you come in and get a burn permit, things like that, that's where that revenue comes from. Enforcement. We have passed an ordinance, and our deputy will write traffic tickets under our local codes, so we receive a share of the fine revenue.
Right.
That's also for liquor enforcement. Administrative fees. These are fees for the planning commission. These are fees that you would pay for a land use permit. These are fees that you would pay for a waiver. So these are the administrative fees. And then miscellaneous, they're very little. Miscellaneous would be what, passport fees and things like that. So expenses by department. So you could just take a look here and see basically where a majority of our expenses occur. We have used general fund money on roads, our sewer fund, insurance bonds, and fringes, and then basically each department and their expenses, but that's the expense breakdown. General fund revenue. So you can see our past. You can increase the size of that. No, probably not. Okay. So the township board revenue is for engineering services. It could be for legal fees, enforcement and things like that. That's where a lot of that township board fees are, and then obviously paying township board members for being here, but a majority of that is those type of enforcement fees. Supervisor of the department, as you know, we budgeted this last year for a deputy that we did not appoint, but we did bring in Nikki, who used to work here as our zoning administrator, to do a lot of sewer work, because we have this billing that we're coming up on next year. We're going to be sending out notices to people that have to connect to the sewer system. So we needed to make sure that we were sending those out to the right people. So we used her in that department. So that's why you see an increase in the estimated cost for this year. We have also continued to keep that budgeted for a deputy. Doesn't mean that I'm going to hire a deputy. The clerk's department, that's for the clerk, the deputy clerk. Board of review, the treasurer's office at $113,000. That's for the treasurer, the cashier, and the deputy treasurer. Assessing department, as you know, we have a Michigan master assessor and a level 1 assessor that we brought on. Last year we had 4 elections. We did keep elections a little bit high because there's going to be some costs there. Building and grounds is, staying pretty consistent with what we spent this last year. We did have some air conditioning work that needed to be done to get caught up. Don't know what the building's facing, but we know it's aging, so we kept that bolstered a little bit. Cemeteries, we did some things last year that we're not going to do this year, so we actually decreased the cemetery fund a little bit down to $11,000. Unallocated expenses, staying flat. Zoning administrator, that's pretty much going to stay flat for the year.
What is an example of an unallocated expense? That sounds remarkably reminiscent of miscellaneous.
Pretty much. What goes under allocated?
Well, unallocated is just a lot of the day-to-day things that can come up. So probably, if we have supplies, I know like if the clerk's department has to approve, you have that.
Copier
That level
contracts.
for, we need service on this, it's not working and it's under the 400 value.
Okay.
So the clerk can approve. There 9-item list. It may actually be in our board packet,
Yeah.
but there's many, it's just all those small
Okay,
little
that's fine.
items that, it's not by each department, it's
Got
just
it.
to run the whole township.
Okay.
Zoning administrator is going to stay pretty much the same. Ordinance enforcement, slight increase in that. Public Works, we bolstered that up a little bit because we might have the interjurisdictional drain agreement coming, and we're going to have engineering fees there.
And at-large drain fees.
Yep. Social services, that's the money that we give to the Heartland Community Center, which is on our agenda tonight. Planning Commission, that's expenses for a professional planner, paying the Planning Commission for meetings and any services that are resulting in planning. Little bit of increase. Zoning Board of Appeals, I don't think that we're going to have as busy of a year as we did this year. Economic Development, that's our money that we give to Ann Arbor Spark. Insurance, bonds, and fringes, we didn't see any major increases in insurance, which we've already approved for next year, which was very surprising. And then transfers out, that's money that we would transfer out to other funds from the general fund, mainly the sewer fund, to make the sewer bond payment. Next is our restricted fund budgets. These are budgets, they're funds that are budgeted, that have some revenue and some that don't have revenue. Technology fund, we think it's going to be pretty much the same. We're going to budget $30,000. Our estimated expenses this year are $25,000. Building and site does not have a revenue source. That money comes from a fund balance or a surplus that we put in it. We estimate that there'll be a $5,000 expense there. We will transfer surplus money or whatever to that fund later. Beautification, we haven't done anything in beautification. Liquor law enforcement, we usually receive $3,000 and then we'll use that to our public safety fund to offset the cost of our officer. Public road improvement, we're kind of looking at spending about $320,000 possibly this year. That would be money that would be transferred in from budget surplus or fund balance that we have in our road fund. Nothing in the township improvement fund, no projected expenses there. Right-of-way money, last year we received $8,800. This year we spent $8,000, so there's a little deficit there, and that's what we budgeted for next year. Well, we're expecting to receive $50,000 for public education grant. The estimated expenses this year are $40,400. That's because Heartland finally came in and is receiving some grant money this year. Public Works, Sewer, O&M, those are the estimated costs, and we do have money in the sewer fund to cover those. Special assessment budgets, we've approved these already, but I put them in the presentation so you can kind of see what they are. Public safety, this is the public safety initiative that we passed for police and fire. The revenue will be approximately $641,000, and the expenses for next year would be approximately $50,000 with a surplus that will go into our public safety fund. Now that's barring we don't have any major weather events where we have a lot of trees down or a lot of slide-offs on the freeway due to ice or anything. You know, if it's a normal year, that's kind of what we're looking at as far as expenses. Jane Hill street lighting, there's a special assessment for that. As you can see, there's going to be a little bit more expenses, but they do have a good fund balance, so we'll use money for the fund balance. Walnut Drive street lighting, same situation. Jane Hill rubbish removal, there's their expected revenue of $18,000 in their expenses. Park and Hill Lane snow removal, something that we've continually doing. Great Oaks Drive, there's their revenue and expenses as well. Tyrone Township sewer, estimated revenue is $1,333,000. expenses of $1,628,000 with $295 coming from fund balance. Park and Lane Road Improvement, $32,000, expenses are $38,000, and we will use fund balance there. New this year is the Shannon Glen Waste, which is, there's a revenue of $5,500 and expenses of $53,000 with a surplus of $175,000. So that's the budget. Do we have any comments or questions? Okay.
And just for the public's perspective too, Press, when you say fund balance, you mean individual fund balances, not the general fund balance.
Right. Yeah, each one of those is their own.
Yeah, they have their own
individual fund.
standalone, just in case anybody thought we were.
Yeah, we
pulling
don't get
that out
the, we
of-
don't get the ability of
Fund
having,
balance is kind of a generic term.
having a state general fund. We
Yeah.
have to have a fund for every line item, and
Right.
they cannot go negative.
Right,
So
we can't vote ourselves
if
a
they
deposit.
are to go negative, we have to transfer fund balance to it, otherwise we have to do a lot of paperwork to the state, so. Okay, so with that, we will close the public hearing, and we will move to our regular meeting agenda. I do have one item that I would like to add. Item number 10, under new business, hire temporary audit firm. Under item number 10, did anybody have anything else that needed to be added to the agenda? I'll look for a motion.
So moved. Support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that approves the agenda. Approval of the consent agenda. The regular board meeting minutes from February 21st, 2017, and the clerk's warrants and bills.
So moved.
Support. It's been motioned and supported to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Next, communications. One item only, Livingston County Sheriff's Report from January 2017.
Move to place on file?
Support.
It's been motioned and supported to receive and place on file the Livingston County Sheriff's Report from January 2017. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Public remarks.
I took my definitions off the pie charts, but that's fine. It was a short-lived victory, let's put it that
was.
way.
You didn't save those to your desktop?
Have to reference your email.
Yeah, I know. Like I say, it was a short-lived victory.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't want to look at them while you were sitting out on your deck on the weekend?
I wasn't out on my deck this weekend.
Well, that would explain why then.
Yeah.
Public remarks. Does anybody have any public comment or remark? Okay. Next, we go to unfinished business. Apple Orchard's request for road improvement special assessment, item number 1.
We had a public hearing a couple of weeks ago on, it was more of an informational meeting to let the residents of Apple Orchard Drive know that there's also an inter-county drain project that's going to be coming through and affecting them as well. And we had a lot of people in attendance. We had quite a bit of opposition to the project. We had people who had originally signed the petition that asked to have their signatures removed. We had people write letters saying that they're in support of the project, but they want to wait until after the drain project is completed. So they have enough signatures to move forward with the project. However, I've been in contact with our legal counsel, and because there's so much uncertainty about when the drain project is going to go through and what that might do to the road, that his recommendation is that we don't approve the Apple Orchard Drive project at this time. And he said, with the uncertainty of the road, or the drain project, we don't know when that's going to happen, and that could change the cost estimates for getting the road repair done. So he's advising us to reject that project at this time.
Is the only thing holding that back that timing of the Drain Commission?
Yes.
Do we know what the timeline for that is?
They
We
don't
do not know
don't.
yet. It's still in the
preliminary.
preliminary phases. They're still getting signatures together. If they don't acquire enough signatures, then either jurisdiction can go ahead and impose that district. It's a little ways out yet, and the comment that I have about this is I would have a real hard time of putting down a new road, having them trench, open cut that road. We're going to have excavators, large trucks, lowboys driving all over this road and tearing it up. And then we're going to have patchwork. And then we got to make sure that the patchwork is right. And I just don't know if it is in the best interest of the residents at this time to subject to them of having their brand-new road torn up by an interjurisdictional drain agreement project.
And they don't know what the cost is going to be assessed to them for the drain project either. So this would be another assessment on top of that. So I think there's just too much unknown at this time.
So there is an actual petition that's been filed with enough signatures, and it's up to the board to make a decision and if we move
Correct.
forward with it. All right.
Is there any reason to
And-
want to keep this on the radar for some point in the future?
What, did legal indicate that if we decline or reject the petition, do they have to do a whole new petition?
They're going to have to start over because
Okay.
they're going to have to get a new cost estimate, which the language of the petition has the costs in it as the estimate has been presented now.
Okay.
So if those costs go up, then that would
No,
change.
Scope of project, okay.
So I guess the reason I'm asking is rather than force them to go through that process again, you could postpone
And delay
definitely to a
it.
date certain. There's a proviso in Robert's rules that allows you to postpone to a specific date. You could postpone to a definite date 6 months from now and revisit it and see where we're at.
And then have the board make a decision.
And-
then.
Well, and then actually, you could have another hearing, you could have another,
Well, I guess we have to determine is how long is the quote on the road for? That would be a good indicator as to how long. we can-
probably not any good now.
Probably right.
Past experience would be, it's
Yes.
probably wrong now, but, okay. I've just thrown that as an
Right.
option, but.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, I think that maybe we could just not make a ruling on this right now, find out how long we have on that, and then bring it back to another board meeting and make a decision on it.
Okay.
Because unless somebody's prepared to make a motion on it now, then
And I think it's reasonable to put it off a little bit and see where this,
if we don't make a
Drain
motion on
thing
it, then we've taken no action on it.
Yeah, then it dies on its own.
So it's still an active project, we just haven't made a decision on it.
Right.
We can bring it back at a later date. So unless anybody is so inclined to make a motion,
Let it come back on its own.
we'll move on to the next agenda item.
Okay.
I don't have a motion, so we're moving on to the next agenda item. Next is under new business is resolution to adopt the 2016-2017 fiscal year budget by department totals as outlined in my presentation.
That's supposed to be 17, 18.
17.
That's right, that is 17-18. See, I don't have it
Sorry.
to read. Just goes to show you, if somebody puts the wrong information down, you're gonna take in wrong information. But that probably could have been me. So there'd be a resolution to adopt.
So resolved.
support.
Been resolved and supported to approve the 2017-2018 fiscal year budget by department totals. Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, any further discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Soren Peterson,
Yes.
Chuck Schultz.
Yes.
David Walker.
Yes.
Mike Cunningham.
Yes.
Marna Smith.
Yes.
Al Poole.
Yes.
And Marcy Husted, yes.
Next item on the big board packet part here. Item number 2, Fenton, Lake Fenton, Linden, and Heartland Schools request for PEG grants.
Okay, so the schools usually, under the FACT Consortium's bylaws, are to have their PEG grant request in before April, because the idea is that if it's granted, they will order equipment to be in before the end of the school year to inventory. You'll notice there's actually one page that's showing a total cost. There's 2 applications. One application is Heartland Schools by itself. Tyrone Township collects PEG from charter, and we have been setting aside, I think since 2012 or 2013, we have been setting aside a percentage for Heartland Schools, but they have never come to request a grant before. So those monies have been set aside. The Heartland Schools will be 100% Tyrone Township's portion. When you go to the other application, that is including Fenton, Linden, Lake Fenton school districts. And those school districts, the consortium is including PEG grant monies that City of Fenton, City of Linden, Lake Fenton Township, and then Tyrone Township. We're collecting PEG grants and we're pooling those all together among us. So those communities, municipalities will not be doing the portion of Heartland. So the two separate applications are there. They did provide their wish list of the items that they're looking at. It's giving a description, quantities, price, total. This would be an up to amount that they're requesting. They usually do not order. When they order all of it, it's usually not that full cost. They're usually a little bit under. And I did make a notation. I looked up for the last few years, and we do have a PEG coordinator that we're having do a lot of coordinating and implementing. And I'm noticing the PEG coordinator does seem to have some positive in that he is one-on-one with the audio-video departments, and he's really going through their current inventories, in which we did receive complete inventory list of the schools, so we know what they have, and he's indicating if the items are, what condition they're in, if they're going to be scrapped, if we can sell it. Over these years, I'm noticing the PEG grants are dropping. In 2015, without Heartland Schools in there, they wanted $191,000 total. In 2016, it dropped to $180,000, and again, not including Heartland. This year, we have a PEG grant in $166,000, and that's not including Heartland. If you add Heartland's in, it bumps it up. But it's kind of, I'm noticing it's going down. I think the PEG coordinator is making the teachers realize you have some existing equipment, you're just not utilizing it to its full potential, or you may just need to take some of the old to repair items that aren't working so that you can have items and don't need to buy new. And so this is where we're at with our grants. We have over $200,000 in PEG monies, and you can only really use them for equipment outlay anyways.
This is
So-
effectively a pass-through, right? We can't use these funds for any other purpose.
We can use it for the township, but it has to be specifically for public education.
Right.
Right.
That's
So
the
we can
key
use it, but we can't use
But
it
it's
just
got
to
a
buy new
very-
computers for
right,
our
it's got a
offices.
very limited bandwidth.
Very limited on the purpose of it, yeah. So these are the PEG grants. Again, I'm glad to see that Heartland Schools was included this year, that they did make a request. We have set aside about $43,000 for Heartland, and they're asking for about $14,000 to start out.
I wanted to make a comment, even though the PEG coordinator has assisted with the inventory and the getting rid of or dissolving old inventory, that was, actually came from this board. It was Tyrone Township that said, hey, if you're gonna get money from us, we want to know what equipment it is that you have, and how are you disposing of it, or are you selling it, or what are you doing? And they put some policies in place, and it's really cleaned up this program a lot.
And we did have just a small amount that they did sell, that they broke out. We actually had some equipment that the PEG coordinator
value.
sold off, and it says in that policy that any equipment sold, those funds have to be put to the next grant. and use towards the next grant. So we had, well, I don't know, a little over $300.
Now, since I'm the new guy on the block, where do these funds come
So
from?
this all comes from the charter, a charter customer. It's on
Okay.
your charter bill.
Okay,
So you'll see
There's cable franchise fees that
fees
come to the township,
and
and then
PEG
PEG,
fees.
which is the public
Oh,
education.
okay.
So a user, it's the actual user, it's the little guy that's paying for these.
right.
But it's under the uniform, we just passed that.
Uniform cable
They don't
agreement. And
do
last
that.
year, we approved last meeting, we approved our cable franchise agreement with Charter, and we kept the fees the same,
So it's
Okay.
5% is franchise fees and then 2% is
PEG
PEG.
fees.
All right. Thanks.
So the total this year proposed for Tyrone Township to pay out for all the schools is $40,347.
Correct. And then you have the breakdown for each school.
And we have, there's
Oh,
like 200 grand in
We have
that account.
$200,000 plus in the PEG grant fund.
And this
That
is
we
in,
effectively can't use for purposes other
That we
than public
really-
education. So
I think they had one
That was
other
my
issue with getting this equipment. They didn't have any teachers to run it or manage it. Or,
Well, I think there was an issue for a while, the PEG coordinator was kind of, they'd lost a PEG coordinator.
We did have, the first year, she left, and then we had an interim come in, and he's worked out really well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think it was a teacher issue, I think it was a coordinator.
It was a
issue.
communication
Yeah.
issue with the first coordinator we had,
So moved.
no longer.
Support. Been motion and supported to approve the grant amount of $40,347.43 to the different school districts for PEG fees. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Those opposed, that motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the 2018, got it right this time, township meeting dates.
We don't approve this, it's- we don't have to show up anymore.
Right.
So moved.
Support.
This is a resolution.
So resolved then.
So
Yep.
resolved.
Support.
It's been resolved and supported to approve the meeting dates for 2017, 2018. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Marna Smith,
Yes.
Al Poole,
Yes.
Mike Cunningham,
Yes.
David Walker,
Yes.
Chuck Schultz,
yes.
Soren Peterson,
Yes.
and Marcy Husted, yes.
Next item on the agenda is the Heartland Senior Center request to increase the township support funds. Every year, we give money to the Heartland Senior Center. What that does is it gives our residents age 50 years of age or older to use the services at the senior center for free. And I see you smirking, David. Did you know that you can use it?
I did, but
There you go.
take offense to the fact that just being over 50 makes me eligible. Go ahead.
Well,
I'm kind of in the same boat here.
there are a lot of residents that use it.
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
It's got exponential intrinsic value, all, you name it, it's got it. We can't
They
give
have some very fun activities there.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have been giving $4,000 a year. Well, we'd already prepared our budget and our presentation when we got this letter, and they had asked that we increase that to $4,400. I'd spoke to her, I called Kim and told her, you know, we kind of haven't planned for this. Would $4,250 be okay? Well, she said yes, that would be appreciative. However, we just approved in our budget $4,371. We can either give her the $4,250 that we agreed on, or give her the $4,371 that we approved. in
Because
our
that was the
budget.
3% increase, wasn't it?
Oh, 'cause
On
you
the
put
budget.
you
We
put
did a flat 3%,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just applied a flat percentage.
Which just,
When was the last time we changed this?
it's been 4,000 for
All the years that
7
I've
years
been
that I've
here.
been here except this year.
Okay.
So for 6 years it's been. And that, if at 2% a year, I mean, we're there.
Yeah, right.
It looks like they have pretty good participation.
They do have
They've
from
got
Tyrone.
weight training, they've got yoga, they've
They
got
have-
walking classes, they've got pickleball classes, they got arts and craft classes.
They have
they've
a
got-
bicycle group that
Yeah.
ride the trails and,
You know, they work with Meals on Wheels, they do all kinds of stuff, transportation, tax services.
yeah.
So, I mean,
And this is the only organization that a municipality is allowed to make a donation to. You're not allowed to donate to like Girl Scouts or
We've
Boy
used it
Scouts. and-
3,312 times.
Yeah. I'd be fine to.
I wouldn't go over our budget.
Right. We'd have to stay in the budgeted number. What was the budget number? 43?
4371.
71.
We could round that off to 4370.
No, is that the senior activities, now, the only way they get funded is how? Do they only get support from the local municipalities, or do they get funding elsewhere, and are they asking for,
They have
it's
a,
just, is there state funding, is there?
I think they're very limited and they need a lot of volunteer.
I'm sure they have grant money that they have.
Yeah, I
They've
think
got
there's
money
some.
from Heartland Township and us. And I don't know if they service other communities, but they do have fees for some of the things that they do on the side, so I'm sure they create a little bit of revenue as well. They're not just an expense center, they're a profit center as well. I don't know what profit they're making, but
And they do knock on the doors of local businesses.
I'm sure they do.
Can I add real quick, Keith Kramer plays cards at the dude.
Oh, he plays cards?
He plays, I play with my
Keeps him sharp on his budgets.
Funny.
Yeah,
He enjoys it.
my
Good.
mom did, but
Well, you know what, we
Oh,
agreed 4250, so what did you guys want to do? 4,300?
I personally don't think we should go over our budget that we've already
No.
Right.
decided on.
Well, our budget's
Yeah, right.
And then
4371.
we've already decided to go up on it too, so.
Right. So just do 4,300, an even number.
Is that your motion?
My motion is to,
Here's mine.
4,300.
Okay.
That's my
It's been
motion.
It's been motioned and supported to approve 4,300 for the Heartland Senior Center. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next is the adoption of the emergency support plan. This, we have, last year, they hired a emergency manager for the county. Part of her responsibilities is to put together an emergency support plan for all municipalities within the county. And basically what this does is it provides a roadmap of if there is an emergency within the township, this pamphlet here, all these pages, will tell them who's in charge of what, who to call for this, who to call for that. And it goes all the way from FEMA to Red Cross, all the way down to me, David, and the rest of the board. So it's basically what it is this big chart to do that. It's been reviewed by the state, approved by the state, all the updated phone numbers, contacts, point persons, and everything are in it. It is a working document. So we would approve this by a township resolution if we do, and if anybody changes a phone number or a trustee or board member leaves and is replaced, then it has to be updated. So it's be my responsibility to kind of keep an eye on it and make sure that, you know, it doesn't get lost in the shuffle, and I'm sure Terry will help me. So, that's the plan. If anybody has any questions about it, go ahead and ask, otherwise I'll
not that different than the one before, so.
They do have on page 5, myself listed as clerk, should be treasurer, under the public information,
number
page 5.
Have an emergency.
I'm getting there. It's a lot of pages.
There's treasurer.
Page number 5.
There's
Looks
treasurer.
like an alternate.
Right.
Yeah. But it just seems like a lot of
Yours says
repeat
treasurer.
information, but
What page? is it?
5.
Oh, no, I meant,
Okay, I'll make sure that
I'm thinking
correction
out of
is
the board
made.
packet, I'm thinking out of it.
All right. So I will go ahead and resolve that we adopt our support emergency operations plan as amended.
Support.
It's been motioned and supported to adopt our emergency support operations plan as amended. Any further discussion?
This thing ever get tested?
Test it right now.
When there's a
I'm just-
disaster.
I'm just saying that it's one thing to have a plan, but it's another thing to test it and
think
see if it.
I think the
I'm just
test
being that guy.
happened
I
and
mean,
there was no plan and they decided, we need to have a plan.
I get that, but it's one thing to have a plan, it's another thing to test it and see if it actually works. I'm
Right.
just saying that.
Just a drill?
Yeah,
They
what
need
if
to have a
I-
rehearsal?
Go pour that on the floor, stand on it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll
We'll
just-
see how well it works. Of
No, you know, like you get a new alarm system, you want to test it and
course,
see
somebody's
if
gonna
it
have to
works.
answer your phone.
Next time I'm out shooting with Murphy, I'll ask him, I say, hey, let's test this. I'm gonna take you hostage.
Oh, that's funny. That'll test
And kick
it.
my ass. So,
This is a test. This
Yeah.
is only a test. And if it an
That's
actual
okay.
emergency.
That's
All in favor, or roll call
Roll call.
vote, please.
Okay. Al Poole,
Yes.
Marna Smith,
Yes.
Mike Cunningham.
Yes.
Chuck Schultz.
Yes.
Soren Peterson.
Yes.
David Walker.
Yes.
And Marcy Husted, yes.
So that motion carries. Next item on the agenda is request to renew the employee's health insurance policy. As you can see, here's our fees here. We are looking at only a 6.52% increase in our health insurance coverage, which
It's low.
is low.
I'll take that all day long.
You know, I hear of people that are 20% plus, and it's not uncommon.
I got
We just-
almost a
And we're the premium plan. This is the best one
This is the
there
same
is.
plan that we've had. It's,
No, it's a bargain. Mine was well north of 20% for our offices.
we've been holding steady with this, so, I'll,
So moved.
Support.
it's been motioned and supported to renew the township's employee health insurance policy. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries. Next is item number 7, request to write off uncollectible fire service invoices. These are invoices, it's the end of the year, we needed to clean this up. It's something that we usually do every quarter, as you can see. We've got some statute of limitations on collection, they're just old. We probably won't see as many of these next year. They're either bankrupt, statute, deceased, et cetera, et cetera.
The collections people, can't get anything on them either? Have they tried or?
They're the ones that
Not even-
actually told us we can't collect
Okay.
on those
Yeah,
because of the statute of
if they're beyond the
limitations.
statute.
But my understanding is even
Yeah,
if,
that's your
even though
warrant.
we write them off, they can still stay as a receivable. And so if we were able to collect or happen to get a payment in the mail, we will apply the
Now, can
payment.
these are all out of township residents, right? They're not township
Correct.
residents?
Correct. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, since you threw that out there,
Yeah.
how frequently do you just suddenly get a
We
check
have
from?
had it happen.
Really? Somebody
Yes.
gets
We
just
religion
recently had
and
that happen.
suddenly?
Yes, because I asked the accountant, I'm like, how am I going to receipt this? We've wrote this
Last
off.
month.
And she said, no, I keep it on my receivables list. Even though we've wrote it off, I still have it in
But
there
you had
that
one
we
that actually
can,
showed up?
we've received a couple of payments.
Okay.
And it may be due to our collection agencies that we started using, that we received.
There were some of the ones that we couldn't collect on that we'd written off prior to our collection agency. Our collection agency was able to collect on
Collect
them.
on it. Yeah.
Well, you've
so-
reinforced my confidence in the humans, so that's great. But I'll still make the motion to write them off.
I support it.
It's been motioned and supported to write off the uncollectible fire run service invoices. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next,
Oh, Someone's got a question.
yes.
I was thinking about the coverage that we have with our fire protection. If you have an ambulance or such dispatched to the location, now, all the township residents are covered under the safety that we have here. But if they step across the line in Fenton or wherever, they're gonna have to pay someone over there.
It just depends on their ordinance, how they have it set up over
So is it possible
there.
that we have some inter-operative arrangement that our people get covered?
We're paying them to come here.
You know, it is something that can definitely be discussed when our fire service contracts
Can't
are
hurt to
up.
ask them.
Actually, I could probably even have discussion with, another very valid point there.
Yeah, good. Can't hurt to ask. The worst they could say is go pound sand. Well, that really is the worst they could say.
Yeah.
Just thinking about my wallet.
Yeah, there's a chance I could have a heart attack in the laundry or something like that. I definitely, I'm good with that idea.
Oh, you've seen their prices too.
Well, no.
I don't know. I've
No,
never
but
been-
technically, as is pointed out earlier in the meeting, I'm technically a senior, so it could happen anytime.
Trip and fall.
Yeah.
Shoot yourself in the foot.
No, that's not like that.
Too big
Next
of
is
that.
discussion on budgeting for the broadband service survey.
And I get a lot of questions because we did a survey in the back of our tax bill about the fiber and if people were interested. And we never really moved much forward in progress on where the board wanted to pursue on the internet. I think we had discussed budgeting monies for the phone survey, but then we never really followed through with that. And I'm just kind of curious on, do we want to just not move forward with this? Or should we look to get we needed to get solid quotes on the cost to do that phone survey.
Just to do the survey?
Yeah.
It was
That's kind of where we
approximately
stopped,
It
and we
was
stalled.
right around $10,000.
Could I refresh this broadband is for the township to get a broadband and sell the service?
Correct, that fiber, like,
No,
we would
we-
own the infrastructure, and we would have to borrow monies probably to, Get it
Here's
set
one
up.
one of the, kind of a weird situation. We got charter, we get PEG grant money from them, and 5% of that, everybody who's got charters pretty much has the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That's cutting out a PEG, it's cutting out,
the
I
franchise,
don't
yeah,
get why we would
franchise
have
and
Yeah,
a
what's the
agreement with
benefit?
charter when that's becoming the way of TV, everything is going through internet. I mean, what do we do there? What?
Right. Yeah.
Why
Well,
do
the
we
fiber,
even-
this was that company Pulse, and that specifically was internet and phone service only. They were not providing cable, because they see cable as going away. People are just going to want high-speed internet to stream everything. And so we were looking at the option of fiber can provide that high-speed internet service. Are we as a township interested in pursuing to be completely connected for all of our residents in our township by pursuing this? And
Is that a millage? How are we sending bills to people?
it would just be getting a bond to put that infrastructure in. But we weren't sure. We did the little survey in the back of our tax bill, and the numbers were a little close. And then this company said, well, we can do this phone survey for a 95% confidence of what your residents would want, and then they would be, the time of the phone survey, they would be getting them to have a contract that they could sign, that they were going to sign up. So you knew if you had 50% or 60% signing up at the time of
Tell me
it.
what a little close means.
I don't even remember. I think it was probably like 55% want it.
I mean, are we getting a groundswell of people knocking on the door saying?
No,
why
we're
don't we
getting
have that?
a large amount of
In the
people
township.
just irritated because they can't even get dial-up. We have areas in our township, cannot get service, but because of an organization out there saying we're a completely connected township, Charter won't even listen to them to bring a line out to their home. The resident has to pay for it all out of
We have
pocket.
service in all of our subdivisions, our lake communities,
Mm-hmm.
but when you start getting out to areas, the southeast corner of the farm areas,
Tipsico
Sand Hills,
Lake.
Tipsico Lake,
Yeah.
there's
Nothing.
no
They have
no
nothing.
service. And we did send an initial survey out, and the question that I have is, if we were to do this, how many people would actually give up charter to go on this, because we would need full participation in order to do this.
Well,
And what you're not getting with this service is you're not getting the cable TV. You're only gonna
Just
get
internet,
the
and if you
internet.
want a landline, a phone,
So how
So-
would we fund this?
Yeah.
We would have to either take a
Loan.
loan,
a bond, or
A
a
bond.
loan, or,
put it on the ballot.
This is a terrible analogy, but this sounds remotely reminiscent of the sewer project.
yes, it does.
Exactly.
Do we
where-
want to get?
There's a lot of,
So the answer is,
yeah. I do recall that originally it's
No.
a high risk. The whole project is a high risk for the township.
Yeah.
It's a big investment. The only alternative at the end, at a very long range end, it could be 10 to 15 years that you pay that off, what you're borrowing to put the infrastructure in. Well, then it actually becomes a revenue source for the township, because then you own it, you can, we're mailing out utility bills for sewer usage, we'd be mailing out utility bills for the internet
Well,
connection.
I've got one
But-
thing, Charter's got an exclusive contract with Tyrone Township, right?
Yep.
A
And I've got
franchise
something to add
agreement.
on that.
And if we have the ability to, well, it's kind of silly to have a contract for somebody to have that kind of communication, and then now we're competing with them, and then B, we're losing PEG fund if it's something desired by the schools, which I'm sure it is. But then, why couldn't we use that to get them to try to add more infrastructure? We cannot, no, not use the money,
Yeah.
get them go,
Get
look,
Charter.
this is what could happen.
Leverage.
This could bring your revenue down for here and everything like that, but
Yeah.
would
Well-
that get them in more incentive to add more infrastructure for
And
cable?
he has, we've had some talks with charter representatives.
What had happened is they just went through a merger with Time Warner. Part of their agreement was to expand their service to include 1 million connections.
New connections.
New connections. Charter says, we'll do better than that. We'll do 2 million connections. So they're in a couple of states. What does that mean to Tyrone Township? I don't know. And I've asked the question. I said, I would really like to know. And they have to do this within the next
There's time,
Two-
there's phases of it, so
There's a
many
couple of
years.
They've got a couple of years. Hopefully that would help. I don't know. The other thing is that Conway Township is looking at doing this, and they're looking for partners in crime, obviously. They've approached
An
us.
authority.
Forming an authority. I kind of want to just sit back and watch that go and see how it does. I think we already had one, you mentioned the sewer fund. I guess when that starts paying back our general fund, the $425,000 a year that we wanted, then maybe we could start looking at getting on another fund, because I hate to have two negative funds.
That you're loaning money from the general fund, right?
I do know and understand the need for internet service, but the reality of the situation is you bought the home. Some people may have lived there for a long time and inherited the home, but many people buy the home and it doesn't have internet service. And some of them might have been told there's internet service and there wasn't. So there's so many anomalies to this. I just don't know if I'm.
what about programming? If we have our own system here, is there going to be any program?
Oh, there. Well,
It's a third
no,
party.
It's third party.
It's a third
only-
party through
it's
that
only
other,
internet.
through the Pulse.
But we would
program, yeah.
own the equipment, we would manage the equipment. It means we'd have to buy a building somewhere to put all the servers and stuff in, hire somebody to manage it, and run all the lines.
It's a whole other business.
It's all,
Excellent
yeah,
job of
it's
not
running the
selling.
utilities. It's owning and running utility.
What happens with Conway Township, I'd really like to attend the
Just
meeting.
to see if there's very much
Yeah, he's
participation
trying to
in
get a
it.
meeting scheduled, and I'd really like to go just to
Yeah,
See
I
how
would
much
like to-
interest there is.
Right.
yeah.
And there's one thing that's like, we'll send you, we can get you lower internet, or faster internet at a lower rate. Well, yeah, I'll sign the survey for that, but when it actually comes down to it,
To sign, that they're gonna sign the line to connect it.
who's gonna
yeah.
give up their phone and TV just for internet?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure you could use Vonage or VoIP or whatever once you have the service, but. Okay.
All right.
All right. Authorization for the deputy treasurer to attend the MMTA Institute.
Okay, so, yes, this was on our meeting before, which was rejected, and she was able to get the scholarship. And I am appealing appeased with getting some scholarship funds and that it's not using all of my training budget. And so I would like to see her finish. It's a 3-year commitment, and this is her 3rd session, so I'd like to make a motion to approve for the deputy treasurer to attend.
Second. It's been motioned and second to approve the deputy treasurer to attend the MMTA Institute. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Next is item number 10, to hire a temp audit firm. I don't know if you all know, but our current accountant has resigned, and we don't have anybody doing our accounts payable and the little receivables that we have. We also are at the end of our budget year, so we need to do year-end close. There's warrants that need to be paid,
And tax settlement.
stuff that needs to be done so we can
Yeah.
wrap up the year. We also have an audit coming up. This is all rather acute, and we haven't had much time to do much research, but we need to get somebody in place stat. So what I would propose to the board is that you authorize Marcy, Marna, and myself to figure out what the best solution is for us and to approve us to go ahead and obtain that person until we can hire a person to take over.
So moved.
Support?
It's been motioned and supported to authorize the clerk, the supervisor, and the treasurer to hire a audit firm to do the accounting work. Any further discussion?
Ads for hiring going out already?
I'm sorry?
They're already,
Not
We
yet.
have not even had a chance to
It
brief
just
that,
happened
so-
last Tuesday. We really are just kind of trying to figure out what our needs are at the moment.
So are we talking about hiring a firm to handle this temporarily? or-
Possibly.
And I mentioned to Mike, is there any chance that the Michigan Township Association has
We're gonna, yeah.
folks that they would, literally parachute in, that you could, people that were former treasurers
What our plan,
of townships
what our
to
quick brief
parachute
plan
in?
was is to do that, look at the
Yeah.
MTA.
Okay.
Take some estimates from some of the accounting
Okay.
firms, possibly one of our former accountants. And then also too, is to look at other townships
reach
to
out
see
to
if they
other
actually have
townships.
somebody doing it that
That
would be
might be
willing to come
available.
over and do part-time.
In my previous life with school board, if you had a superintendent, for example, or a deputy superintendent that got hit by a bus, resigned for whatever reason, something like that, they actually had a whole cadre of folks that they could ping that within 48 hours could parachute in and take over serving as a superintendent for an interim superintendent until you
Right.
found somebody to
Found
replace that
someone.
person, doing a search, all that kind of thing.
Now, was that before or after the policy for keeping superintendents from the bus yard?
Would have been before.
Okay, so that motion carries. We don't have any other miscellaneous business, public remarks?
I just got a remark
Sure,
and a
Scott.
question now. Getting back to the apple orchard request. Attorney said to turn it down, right?
Yep.
You guys are gonna sit on it. The second thing is, that, thing
The drain
no, the petition.
petition.
Petition,
I'll sign.
yeah.
Now, that's only, what's the lifespan on that?
I think that does expire.
That's
I
what I'm
don't-
saying. It's gonna expire anyway, because they don't even have a price on the drain yet, do they?
They have no idea.
No, that's what I'm saying, so there's no sense even sitting on it, just, I mean, these people are in limbo for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't
Well-
want to bother you guys in the middle of the meeting.
Well, they're
Sure.
not in limbo because of us.
No, I understand, that was a
I think there is some earnest for us to take a look at it, figure out when the expiration date is, and do something so they're not hanging.
I mean, realistically, you did the right thing, I mean, you're looking out for them, because I think it's gonna be a flip-flopping people all the way, right to the, to that end anyway, and it's a mess. So,
Well, they're going to have to prioritize what they want to pay for, and my suspicion is
well, they were in shock when they saw, like half of them didn't even know they were.
that they were in there, yeah.
They were gonna be paying for the grant.
Right.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Anybody else? Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. Call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been motion and support to adjourn the meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Wow, we went.
Obviously,
I was anticipating a 9 o'clock, yeah.
Don't discount the possibility of rampant apathy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you, get an updated catalog, but they merged with Cabela's anyway. Bass Pro, it's 2015 catalog. Yeah.
Did you know that that's kind of
That's not gonna happen?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was a
Oh,
done
well, that
deal.
was a done deal. I mean,
It sounded like it was a done deal, but now
I
it's
was
kind of
Gander
sounding like
Mountain
it's
officially going out, or they just,
is what?
Gander Mountain going out, or they just
They
kind
filed
of,
for bankruptcy. I don't know.
are
if
they
they're
just
closing-
reorganizing?